Now the Yezdi range of motorcycles, when they launched back in 2022, they had a lot of promise, but they did get off to a bit of a rocky start, primarily because of a bunch of NVH problems that plagued the motorcycles. But over the course of the last 2 years, the engineers at Java and Yezdi have done a good job of isolating a lot of the problems and figuring out what's what and fixing it over the range of motorcycles. We saw the Java bikes get it first, and now it's time for this, the Yezdi Adventure. Say hello to the 2024 Yezdi Adventure and welcome to the Evo India YouTube channel. In this first ride review, I'm going to be telling you exactly what's new on this motorcycle and whether or not Java and Yezdi have managed to fix all the problems that have been plaguing the model before this. But before we do proceed, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, share this video with like-minded enthusiasts, and smash that bell icon to stay notified for all of our video drops. Now, taking a look at this motorcycle, you might be wondering what exactly is new with it, and trust me, I had the same questions. But Yezdi tells us that a lot of the changes that have been made to this bike are incremental and based on a lot of the feedback that they have gotten from the customers and from the engineers and the riding team that they have in-house. So a lot of the problems that the owners had with the motorcycle have been addressed with this model update. That's what Yezdi tells us. Now let me quickly run you over the changes, because visually there's not much to look at. The only major visual change you have is this new rail around the tank, which also has this established in 69 emblem, which is sort of a homage and a tip to the hat to when the company actually started. And if you can notice more closely, it has been pulled in. The whole bike has been made more compact. All of the fittings, all of the housings have been covered up and cleaned up neatly. All the wires go cleanly through this channel. So that is about the extent of the visual updates that you will see on this motorcycle. Now onto the functional updates. The main change is the engine. So now this is the Alpha 2 engine. This is what we saw in the new Java 350 as well. So this is the second generation of this engine, and a lot of the NVH problems have been addressed with this engine. Starting with the internals of the engine, they are largely similar, but all have gone through a series of updates, basis trial and error over the last 2 years. Now there is a new map, that's what Yezdi tells us, and not only a new map, there's also a different map for each gear, which also changes with the different riding modes that you have on the bike. There are 3 riding modes, that's off-road, rain and road. Those riding modes remain unchanged, but the tune is different, and like Yezdi said, the tune for each gear is also different. And the primary concern with the previous bike was that it wasn't tractable enough, especially in the lower gears, and you had to constantly work the gearbox to really get moving, especially at lower speeds, and that is one of the major pain points that has been addressed on this motorcycle. Gears 1, 2, 3 have a lot more low and grunt, and that does actually translate in the real world. We were riding some really sketchy, really slippery trails today, which means that the going was pretty slow. That being said, I could have sticked it in 1 if I didn't want to go too fast, and I could have actually had a great time. I didn't need to feather the clutch at all. It had enough grunt to just go with the on-off throttle responses. The throttle response is a lot smoother than before. The vibrations are tamed to a large extent. You really don't feel any vibration. Even when you are at the higher end of the rev range, you don't feel much of the vibrations, and that's great. That being said, even if I were to stick it in 3 in a trail that is demanding say 20 kmph, 25-30 kmph, this does chug along very comfortably. It's very tractor-like in the sense that this is what the engine should have been from the start. Now Yezdi tells us that they worked really hard to ensure that you don't lose the top-end performance that we all loved the previous bike for, but at the same time you also have the low-end tractability that you really need, especially if you're going to be riding this bike in the city, which is what most of the owners do anyways. So they have addressed that. The refinement levels are much better than before. There's a lot less noise in terms of vibrations, clattering, plastic bits here and there. You don't really feel that. Now how this holds up over a course of a longer duration is something we can find out when we ride the bike for a longer duration, but my initial impressions are that they have done a very good job of fixing most of the problems on the engine front and making it a lot more usable, which is exactly why they had to put a different mat for each gear. Now speaking about the gears, the gearbox, it feels slick, it's very tactile, there's little to no effort required to change gears, and that same holds true for the clutch as well. So all in all, the engine package is much better than before. Now the power and torque figures, they remain largely unchanged. They'll be on your screen right now, but that hasn't changed. How you interact with the motorcycle has changed, and to that end, the routing for the exhaust is different as well. As you can see, it doesn't come from the side of the engine anymore. It goes under and comes out from the side to this new exhaust pipe. Now the next major change that's been done, again, is not something you can really see. It's not a tangible change. It's something that you can feel when you are riding the motorcycle, is the chassis setup. So the suspension, the front and the rear have been retuned. Now what they tell us is that the damping rates change and get altered as the speed picks up. So say under 50 kmph, around 40 to 50 kmph, it's a lot softer now than it was before. And again, that is something that really does translate in the real world as well, especially even when you're riding off-road. If you remember Atish's first ride review of the original Yezdi Adventure, he did say that it feels quite stiff, and that sort of takes away a lot of front end feel and confidence from the whole equation. That is addressed to a large extent over here, and as the speeds pick up, the suspension does firm up as well, so you get that confidence as well. Now we're riding in a really wet, rainy day, so we didn't really get to push the limits of the bike on the road, but that being said, it did inspire a lot of confidence. Even the braking performance, they said that they've calibrated it. Again, the ABS they are claiming is best in class in terms of the shortest stopping distance and the most confidence, and to that end, I did feel that the braking performance is quite nice. There is a lot of bite and progression to be enjoyed, but the only thing is that you need to dig into the lever quite a bit before you get access to all of that braking performance. Again, a minor complaint, but one nonetheless. Now my biggest problem with the Yezdi Adventure is in terms of the ergonomic setup. You're reaching out to a moderately wide handlebar. I would have hoped that it would have been a little wider and a little taller. This would have really made the stand-up riding position really good. But then my bigger problem is with the lower half of the bike in terms of the ergonomics. Now this is a problem related to my size and my girth. Similar riders who have a good diet will face this issue as well, is that you're really reaching to a very cramped foot peg, and there's not enough place for you to find any locking or footing or really grip the bike very well when you're standing and riding off-road, and that does really come in the way of riding off-road with a lot of confidence. Something like a heel plate would address this issue, and now after giving feedback to the Yezdi people, they do tell us that they will add something in the accessory list. Whether or not that happens is something only time will tell, but that is one major complaint I have with the ergonomic setup of the Yezdi Adventure. But apart from that, I feel like they have done a good job of taking the bike one step further and bringing it to a position where it should have been actually to begin with. Now in terms of features, the feature set is largely identical to the bike that it replaces. You get the same screen with the adjustability, you get the same 2 charging ports, you get the same riding modes with a different calibration of course. Even with the ABS, the dual channel ABS, all of that stays. But the best part is this: for all the updates you're getting, that makes this bike a lot more competent than it ever was before. You're paying less than before. Prices now start at 2.1 lakh ex-showroom for the base color variant, and the top end color variant will cost rupees 2.2 lakh ex-showroom. So there's not a lot of price gap between the color schemes, so you can really choose what you want. And even for 2.2 lakh ex-showroom, I feel this really fills up the sweet spot that was created by the exit of the Himalayan 411, and this does replace that in many ways in terms of the kind of performance it offers. It's very friendly now. If the riding position was to improve a little, taller, bigger guys like me also would have a great time, and the vibration and noise and everything is a lot better. It's a lot more contained now, and it does feel like it should have from day one. I'm really happy that the Yezdi Adventure has reached where it is, because right now this is something I would really recommend to someone looking for a medium-sized beginner adventure motorcycle. Now what do you think about this bike? Do let me know in the comment section down below, and as always, thank you for watching.